Alrighty guys, hello. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make videos for NBA, I make videos for NFL. This video will be for the Saturday 2-game slate. All these videos get posted on this subreddit called DF Sports with one S. You can find my posts here. My username on Reddit is going to be Shook. So, we'll go over cash games like usual. I mean, there's not a lot of options to choose from, so it's pretty straightforward. And then we'll just go like through the teams one by one. We'll go through the teams one by one first. So, I mean, like the pricing, if you look at the pricing here, it's very, very soft. Like, why is ETN 6K? Like, why is Geno Smith 5.6K? Like, um, why is Evan Ingram 4.2K? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess they want to focus on the casual fan base. So if more casuals are playing, I guess that's good for us. But let's go through it. We'll go through the teams one by one. Then we'll go over some cash game stuff. So, Geno Smith top at 5.6K, I think it's too cheap. I know it's a tough matchup against the best defense in the league. In my opinion, they're going to be pressuring him a ton. But I think that could personally help him. I think he's going to have to get the ball out pretty quick here, which means they're probably going to have to be throwing the ball a lot. I expect them to be playing from behind, which definitely helps that case as well. San Francisco is just hard to do everything on. Like, it's hard to pass on. It's hard to do everything on. So I think Geno could definitely bust here, but if this was like a normal matchup against any other team, he would just be too cheap at 5.6K. So very easy to double stack with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, who I think are very, very solid plays on this slate as well. So I do like Geno doubles. Going to running back, like I said, I think they're going to be down this game. Now, Ken Walker was used in the passing game in the earlier in the year. I don't know what they're doing of late. Like, I don't understand why he's only getting one targets. It just doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, you have a very, very, very tough matchup. So I'm not too into Kenneth Walker this week, but he is very, very cheap at 5.9K. But I think the pricing is so soft that you might be able to fit in better guys. But I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I think it's perfectly fine. Going over to wide receiver, so I think DK, I think Tyler Lockett make two of the better plays on the slate. Point per dollar wide receivers, they're just too cheap at these respective prices, just way too cheap, in my opinion. I'm not going to go to any of these other wide receivers. I think it's just DK and Tyler Lockett for me, and I think Colby Parkinson's is a pretty good value play at tight end. If we go to PFF and we take a look. If you guys don't know what this is PFF Premium. We can take a look at all the stats, and I want to take a look at what week. Where is Seattle? He played 55 of the possible 70 snaps, was in on 22 of those being passing plays. So he's just a pretty good punt, in my opinion. He's pretty talented as well. I think I watched the highlights from this game. He looked pretty talented. I'm not really familiar with Colby Parkinson's too much, but I think he's a pretty good punt play. I think it's either him or Evan Ingram if you want to pay up a little bit. Like I said, Evan Ingram is just way too cheap. So let's move on to San Francisco. So I have a tough time getting to Brock Purdy. Like, they're not going to be throwing the ball that much. They're going to be running Elijah Mitchell. They're going to be running CMC. They're going to be throwing to CMC. So like his ceiling for like passing attempts is like I would say 35, which isn't high, right? If you go back, you look week 14, 15, 16, blah blah blah. Like he hasn't passed over 30 times. And when he throws multiple touchdowns, you can see he's only gone for 16, 16, 18, 19. He has no rushing upside, so I don't feel like the ceiling is intact here. I think the floor is okay, but I just don't think there's a ceiling. So personally for me, for GPPs and maybe even cash, I'm probably just going to be staying away from Brock Purdy. But how do you not get to CMC on the slate? Like, he's clearly the best play on this slate. It's a phenomenal spot up against Seattle. Elijah Mitchell will be involved, but I'm not too worried about that. It's the playoffs, must-win games. I expect heavy work for CMC. I think he looks phenomenal. If you want to go to a 4.7K Elijah Mitchell as like a contrarian GPP play, I think that's perfectly fine. But CMC definitely the standout on San Francisco. Obviously, Debo is back, so it's just going to be Debo and Ayuk at the top for me. I do prefer Debo to Ayuk, but personally for me, like nothing outside of CMC really stands out to me. Like Ayuk's been phenomenal, but with Debo back, that's definitely going to hurt him. As you could see, I still think he had a pretty good game, caught a touchdown. No, he didn't. Had 5 targets for 59 yards, no touchdowns. Just they have like a full on like Navy battle station with all of the weapons that they have. So it's really hard for me to prioritize guys like Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel. Like I said, I prefer Debo to Ayuk. And then like George Kittle at 5.9K, I'd much rather go to Evan Ingram for over $1,000 cheaper. Like look at the fantasy point output. He scored 2 touchdowns, only one for 18. Scored 1 touchdown, only one for 12. Obviously, these 2 games he had very big games, but I think Evan Ingram just has the. I think he honestly might have a higher ceiling for much cheaper. Maybe not a higher ceiling, but I think it's close, point per dollar, and I'll just take these savings either way. So, in love with CMC, not in love with the pass catchers, not too in love with Brock Purdy. So this game looks phenomenal. Justin Herbert, you know the Chargers, they're going to throw the ball a ton. So high floor, high ceiling combo here. Way too cheap at 6.6K. I think he looks great. Austin Eckler at 8.1K is just way too cheap as well. Great involvement in the passing game. Probably gets like 10 to 15 attempts on the ground. Not scared of Jacksonville defensively either. I think he looks great. I think Keenan Allen looks phenomenal with no Mike Williams. We can expect a 30% target market share for him. He looks great. I think DeAndre Carter with no Mike Williams looks like a very good value play. He's going to have to be fit into another massive role here. Joshua Palmer is an okay play. At tight end, I'm not too high on anyone else, to be honest. Like I said, you can't go to Gerald Everett when you have Evan Ingram for like $100 more, but a lot to like with the Chargers tomorrow. Quarterback, like I said, like the pricing's too soft. So Trevor Lawrence looks great. Um, they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, 32, 31, 42, 42 pass attempts. They throttled Houston, so you don't have to throw against Houston. So scratch that out. They were up against the Jets the whole game, still threw the ball 31 times. They were up against Tennessee the whole game, still threw the ball 32 times. In games that they were winning 42 times. Like, it's absolutely insane. And I think his wide receivers and tight ends look really good counter stack or two double or even triple stack. We'll go over roles in a second. So I think Trevor Lawrence looks good, and I don't understand this price on ETN. I don't understand it like at all. It's just way too cheap. I think he looks great. I think Kirk looks good, but I think Zay Jones, like what is this? Why is he 4.3K? It makes no sense. Trevor Lawrence has made it clear that Zay Jones is basically his safety blanket. He'll be targeted very short. Has that big playability as well. I think he looks like a really good value play. I think Evan Ingram at 4.2K also looks like a very good value play. So a lot to like with this last game here. So for rules and stuff like that, throw them all out the window. You don't have to double stack. I definitely would stack, but like you don't have to double stack. You could triple stack. You could four stack. Like if you really wanted to, you could do this. Like you could literally just do this if you really wanted to. And like just play the whole Jacksonville, like throw ETN in there. Like, you could do that, honestly. There's no rules. Do whatever you want on this slate. Have fun with it. Have a good time. But let's go over cash games. So I think Herbert and Trevor Lawrence are definitely the top two for me. You can consider Geno, but I think Herbert Lawrence definitely the top two. Personally for me. So I think I'm going to try to get to one of the either. I'll definitely consider Geno Smith and Brock Purdy, but I think the floor with Herbert and Trevor is just much better. So I think those are my two favorite quarterbacks for cash. You don't fade CMC in cash this week, so he's a cash game staple for me. I think ETN Jr. is probably going to be a cash game staple for me at 6K. That's just entirely too cheap. You could probably fit in Eckler too if you want. He looks amazing. Kenneth Walker is probably going to be the odd man out for me, but if you want to play him, I think that's perfectly fine. Moving over to wide receiver, Keenan Allen, I'm probably going to be trying to get in my lineup with no Mike Williams. Just the absolute volume he gets is bonkers. Love Keenan. I think Metcalf, Tyler Lockett are both two very good cash game plays. I think Kirk is into consideration, but I much prefer Zay Jones at 4.3K. Probably going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate. I haven't looked at ownership. Him or Evan Ingram, probably going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate. You can consider Carter. You can consider guys like Marvin Jones Jr. They'll definitely be in my pool that I'm working through with builds. But outside of that, there's not much else. There's only two tight ends for cash that I'm really going to consider, and that is going to be Evan Ingram and Parkinson at 2.5K. But I would try my best to get to Evan Ingram if you can, but if not, I think Parkinson is definitely viable at 2.5K. So hope this helped you guys out. Sorry for the short video, only a 2-game slate. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.